Buonasera and welcome to the Justpeace Talanoa Bure at COVID-19. And here with us is the president of the Soqosoqo Vakamarama iTaukei, Bua, and the Ana Ramatai, Buonasera. And Mrs. Nirmala Sharma, the president of the Vasulevu, Arya Mandhal, and Paulo Baleinakorodawa, the program director of Transcend Oceania, who will be leading us in the moderating this episode.
Dear Sambulare, Namaskaram, and welcome to this episode, Nirmala and Andiana. Thank you for your willingness to be part of this. You have a lot of interesting stories to tell us and tell the viewers who are listening in tonight. Perhaps to begin with, if you can tell us a little bit about yourselves. We will begin with Nirmala and then we'll come to Arya.
Hello, namaste to you all. I'm Nirmala Sharma. I'm the president of Vasulevu, Arya Mandhal. I'm originally from Bua, but I'm married in Vunicuicui Labasa.
Thank you, Nirmala.
My name is Ramatai. I'm originally from Nambowalu in Bua, and I am the president of the Soqosoqo Vakamarama iTaukei in the province of Bua, which includes 54 villages and about 500 women. Thank you.
Thank you. As women leaders, are you able to share some of your experiences and some of the priorities that you have as women and as leaders?
Thank you. As you know that women are the first respondents. So when it came to COVID-19, I can experience in the community that the women, the girls, people rushing, talking to each and other that there will be short supply of food. What we gonna eat? That this virus is bringing us. And they were rushing to do the shopping. A few of them, they did not have enough even cash to buy the goods for them. So what they start doing, they start selling their whatever the livestock they got, they sell it in a cheaper price. They sell it in a cheaper price so that they're able to buy the other goods from the shop. People were so panicked in buying that they bought a lot of things rather than buying what you were supposed to, because there were so many rumors coming around that we'll be having short supply and there will be no supplying of goods from overseas. So there were a big panic I can experience in the community.
Andiana, as the president of the Soqosoqo Vakamarama in the province of Bua, what is that like for you as a woman? And what are some of the priority issues for you?
Thank you, Paulo. For me, the priority issues when this crisis, COVID-19 came, as living in the iTaukei structure in the village, there are certain things to be done. But just to go back to what the first question that you have said is about, I want to just to share my experience with the other issues that came into the village, like the TC Winston, the Herald. The community knew what to do, but with COVID-19, it was quite new. And it was not only for Fiji, it was a worldwide thing. And as my friend have said, that people, I could see that with me too, there was fear. And with the lack of information, we could get information from our relatives staying in Suva. And even with us, we have access to TV. As soon as we on our TV, we see all the news about COVID-19 and deaths and all that. and that we were really frightened. Oh, this virus is coming to Fiji. Fiji is just a small island. That means everybody in one day, I don't know how many will be dead. So my priority was the health priority, was health security. I was thinking about the women, their security, the safe space for them. I was thinking about the education security. I was thinking about food security. All these things was coming about into my mind at that time.
You were watching Transcend Oceania's Justpeace Talanoa at COVID-19. Join us in the next segment as we continue with the stories of women's innovation in the Northern Division. We will now take a break. Welcome back to this second segment of this episode on women's innovation in the Northern Division. You have, in the previous segment, talked about your experiences and some of the priorities for you as women leaders. Perhaps if we can continue with the Talanoa, now you talking about how you responded and how you coped as women leaders during COVID-19.
In my community, most of them are the farmers there. So what happened that they mostly, whatever he is having, they used to start having the barter system. If someone is having cassava, he changes with dalo and things like that. This is how they are coping up now. And I can also experience that some of them were market vendors also who were coming to the market to sell their produce. So what happened at that time, they were not able to come. So they used to sell in their communities just in a cheap price, so that they are able to get some money to buy other things like sugar and salt for them. And mostly they cope up in most of the friends we can see, they are going to the river to catch fish, at least for their family. This is how the people in the community are practicing to cope up this COVID-19.
Excellent, excellent. Interesting story. Andiana, how did you respond for yourself as a women leader, but also for the different communities? How did they respond and cope with COVID-19?
Thank you, Paulo. With us in the rural areas, especially around Nambawalu in Bua, how we responded to this COVID-19. The main thing was we had to stay calm, and we have to follow the instructions, and then not to think about what COVID-19 will bring, but to think about our family for tomorrow, what we have to eat, what we have to put on the table. So most of us, most of the time, with the people living in that area, their source of income is Yangona, Ndalo, and most of them go out to the sea for fishing. But we knew that there was this difficult time we were facing, and we have to, the women and girls have to join the men in looking for food. Like we had this iTaukei word is the Vasulevu, because if we do our work individually, there will be less will be done in that time. But if we do the Vasulevu, more, like in a day we can plant about 100 or 500 Yangona or 500 Ndalo with the Vasulevu. So we have to go back to those old days where our forefathers, our grandparents used to live. That was one of the things we responded to. We found out that we have to go back to that kind of way, kind of living. We have to share whatever we have. Like my friend have said, we also did this barter system with us. We have Ndalo, and we barter with those living in the islands and coastal areas. I did that. We provided gallons, and they went out to the sea. They provided us with seaweeds, octopus and all those from the sea, which was quite good. And even with groceries, because they don't have money, some of us in Nambowalu, they are working and they can provide them with groceries, or even mothers, they needed diapers and all. So they trade with them with whatever they have. So most of us were responding to this COVID-19. We were looking at the positive way and not the negative way.
It's very interesting that you're both women from Bua, but you live now in different parts of Levu. But the interesting thing was, you both of you talking about going back to some of the ways of living and life and sharing done by our people in the olden days. You talked about bartering, and Andiana talked about solisalbaki, which means, you know, working collectively to address problems. Perhaps if you can move the conversation forward to talk about, during this time, what are some of the key challenges and some of the barriers for you as women leaders playing your leadership role in the different communities you live in?
One thing I would like to share that the unemployment. Those people who are working in the communities, they were unemployed, especially some of them were employed for 2 days and 3 days to at home. So they are like they are and most of them, as I have mentioned, that they are farmers. So there was no proper bus service. There was only one in the morning and one in the evening. So people were finding difficulties to go to work or to take their produce to market. So they were finding so many difficulties, and like we will be hearing in the TV, in the radio, that we should have a mask. We should wear our masks before we go to town. We should have a hand gloves and sanitizers. But people living in a rural community, they they can't afford to have that, all those kind of things. So there were some of the challenges people were finding to come to town to sell their produce, so that they can buy other things instead of eating the same thing every day, because it will not be balanced diet, the food for them. If only they sell their root crops and things from home produce, they can buy other things from the supermarket. Yeah.
Very good, thank you. And Diana, what are some of the challenges and barriers for you as a leader, but also for the women of Bua during this time?
Thank you, Paulo. Some of the challenges that I have found during this COVID-19 was, as we all know, living in a Fijian community in an iTaukei setup, when we have gatherings or when we have funerals, restrictions of movement was there, and the number of people. I knew that we had one funeral in one of the villages in Sawani, and it was a close relative, and we were not allowed. Even some of us were there, and the government, the police officials went there, and all these people who were already there have to be sent home again. So the sad thing is that I had to stand by the road and wait for these people who were bringing the corpse of the dead body from Labasa to Sawani, and they have just to stop there just for 5 minutes. And it really touched me, because I couldn't be there, and I heard that what they've said, that the body was there, and from there to the house only 5 minutes, from there to the graveyard, and only a few people were there. And even those close relatives, the sons and daughters, couldn't attend. And those were some of the challenges that I've seen. Even some of the things we have to postpone, meetings like that with the women from the 9 districts in our province of Bua. Right at the present time, we couldn't do any meetings because of these restrictions and the number of people. Yes, but we knew that it's a challenge for us, but we don't stop there. But we are still trying our best to do whatever we can in our various places or villages where we are.
Thank you. Thank you to you both talking about some of the ways you've responded and coped during this time, and also talking about some of the challenges and barriers. We will continue with the conversation in the next segment. You are watching Transcend Oceania's Justpeace Talanoa Bure at COVID-19. Join us in the next segment after this break. Welcome back to this last segment of this episode on women's innovation in Vanua Levu. Okay, to wrap up the conversation and the Talanoa in this episode, could you please tell us about some of the lessons learned and some of the recommendations that you have? Your work in the past has created change for women. What are some of the lessons that you have learned as leaders? And what are some of the recommendations that you have going forward for you, but also for the young women leaders who are following you?
I can recommend, because I am one of the farmer myself. I am a sugarcane farmer, I can say. I am a vegetable farmer. I am raising seedlings and I am selling to my farmers nearby, even to town. And I also have a bee farming. So I recommend to those who are listening to me to support women like this. If other women are able to do this kind of things, I'm urging them. They can learn from me, and then they can do their things for their income generation. And I urge, if somebody who is listening from the government official, they should help women. They should hear women's voices, their concern, and only if they will be able to hear from the women, then only they will understand their issues, and only then the problems can be solved. So I urge those who are listening to me today, the message from myself is to those who are listening. I recommend, don't be panic. Go back to your home, do your backyard gardening, and try to have all sort kind of things, vegetables, leafy vegetables and root crops, so that you can balance your food. And don't rush, don't be scared or nervous, and be strong. I know women are very strong. They are the first responders, and in any crisis we can say. So I urge all the women who are listening to me, you are strong, you can do, you are the manager. I can say you are the manager in the house. You can do everything to support your family for your food security. Thank you.
Thank you, Nirmala. And Diana, what are some of the recommendations, some of the lessons learned and some of the recommendations?
Thank you, Paulo. Some of the lessons that I have learned from this COVID-19 is one, as we have known that there were certain restrictions and all that and measures were given by the government, is just to follow the instructions. If they said stay at home, we have to stay at home. That was one of the lessons that I've learned, just to stay at home and do my work at home. And the recommendation that I would like to give to the government or the humanitarian actors is to be in advance in giving instructions, and the instructions they give has to be clear, right to the grassroots level, and so that they may know and understand whatever is coming, what will happen. If they know, then they can also do whatever they have to do in their daily lives. If there is confusion, if people are panicked, if they have fear, that means the instructions were not clear. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for your willingness to be part of this episode. Thank you, viewers, for watching this episode on women's innovation in the Northern Division.
To transcend just peace and development is to continue this conversation as the Just Peace Talanoa Bure at COVID-19.